So last week we talked about how we would try this week the exercises from the book The Emotional Life of Your Brain by Davidson. And this is to increase one's positive emotions, what he calls the outlook part of the brain. And he talks about well-being therapy, which was developed by Giovanni Fava. And we kind of tried this. So I'll just read it real quickly. Every day for a week, do these three exercises. Write down one positive characteristic of yourself and one positive characteristic of someone you regularly interact with. Do this 3 times a day, and ideally, you'll write down different characteristics each time. The second part is to express gratitude regularly. Pay attention to times you say thank you. When you do, look directly into the eyes of the person you are thanking and muster as much genuine gratitude as you can. Keep a journal, and at the end of the day, note the specific times you felt a genuine, even if brief, connection with another person during the act of expressing gratitude. And finally, compliment others regularly. Keep an eye out for opportunities to do so, like a job well done at work, beautiful garden of a neighbor. Look directly into the eyes of the person you are complimenting. And in your journal, note the specific times you felt a genuine connection with someone that you complimented. So, do you want to share a little bit of how your at least first week of this exercise went?
Mhm. Well, like compared to last week, I complimented more people. So I think I went from like two last week, then this week was like four or five people.
Mm,
I don't remember. But yeah, it was mostly people at work again. And
mm,
yeah, just mostly compliments on like what they were wearing or and things like that.
mhm,
Um, so yeah, like the quantity increased and it seemed it felt pretty nice to just make people feel good momentarily.
mm, mm.
Um,
How do you know it made them feel good?
Well, I could tell like their face kind of brightens up,
Oh, okay.
um, or they smile.
Mm.
Um, so
But but you told me before that you didn't necessarily feel that genuine connection, but you did feel positive emotion.
yeah, um, so I did that, and then I did a little bit of the writing exercise. Like I wrote that I liked that my brother was like as if an affectionate kind of person.
Mm.
Um, because like after work or as a greeting, like he'll often give me a hug or like I don't know, like give me a little head pat or something when he
Oh,
sees
that's
me.
good. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I noticed that and I kind of wrote about how I like that about him.
Mm.
Um, and I forgot what I wrote about myself, but yeah, I don't really remember what I wrote something about liking something about myself, but I don't remember what it was.
Mm.
Um,
But you did this maybe a few times that week instead of 3 times a
it
day.
was a few times, so yeah, I didn't really reach the quantity. Um, prescribed in the exercise,
Mm.
so that could have been better.
Mm.
Um,
What about
and then I did
gratitude?
that. I forgot that part completely, so I didn't
Oh.
really practice it. Like I said thank you to people and stuff, but yeah, I didn't really get. I forgot to try to be genuine or like look people in the eyes to make it more
Mm.
heartfelt. So
Mm.
yeah, that part didn't really get anything at all
Mm.
this week.
You think you want to try that along with the journaling next week?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, that part.
we can maybe get back to each other like about that and see, after a week if it helps after another
Yeah.
week.
Yeah, I think that part where it says you have to be like intense about it kind of worries me,
Mm.
but
But
we'll
do you think
see.
that's a good reason to actually do it then?
probably, but yeah, just the whole eye contact and being emotional about it.
Yeah. Well, do you
It's
think
just
there's
kind of
anything
hard for
bad
me.
about that or not good?
Not really, but it just feels difficult.
Mm. I tend to think it's good to lean into difficult things as long as they're good. Uh, yeah, I told you that I didn't do much in the way of compliments. I need to watch out for opportunities to do that. I did one compliment, but this person's rather absent-minded and sort of absent-mindedly said thank you. But I noticed that I felt better from doing that, like because I felt genuine about it and kind of spoke genuinely and with emotion about it. I did the gratitude a lot, and I wouldn't say that I felt a genuine connection yet. I do have kind of like this social sort of phobia, kind of withdrawnness in public a little bit. And but I did feel better about just sort of having the intention and expressing some emotion with someone instead of sort of the my usual sort of very, I don't know, withdrawn, sort of maybe monotone kind of thank you that I sort of imagine sounds polite in some way, but I don't think really does. Um, yeah, but last week in the podcast we had talked about along with sort of increasing positive emotion, that Richard Davidson outlook, um, dimension of your brain. We had talked about just sort of along with that sort of feeling more present with people and seeing if we can do that. And how did that go for you?
Mm. Oh, there's like another part to this.
Remember,
I'm
we
trying
had
to look.
talked about in feeling more present with other people.
Oh, well, the compliments help, and I did that more that week. So yeah, it helped me feel more present in the moment with people. Um,
Yeah,
and yeah, when I just focused on the positivity of the moment, it did kind of improve my mood for that time.
no,
Um,
that's good. Can you tell if your
yeah.
mood overall improved, or perhaps this week was kind of exceptional in that you had to work extra and things? I don't know.
Um, I don't know, but I think it's still like at least for the afternoons when I was at work, like it made it easier. Uh, so
That's
yeah,
good. Made it easier.
it
Sounds like you were in a better mood then.
yeah, so it didn't feel like the day was dragging on, and I just like wanted to go home immediately, or like was yeah, just have just focused on the negative feelings of being there for
Yeah.
much longer than usual.
So it
So
sounds like it
yeah,
pretty much made you have a better mood, made your outlook
yeah,
better. Did you feel a
yeah.
little differently when your thoughts would drift towards the future? That's something else that's supposed to happen when your outlook improves.
Mm. Mm. I didn't really examine that, but I didn't really have the negative thoughts I usually have of being stuck in my situation forever or something.
Well, it sounds
So
like, yeah, if you didn't necessarily have better, you did have better thoughts about the future then, even if
yeah,
just,
like
yeah, lack of negative.
yeah, like so I wasn't fixated on that worry or concern I have about my life
Sounds like,
so
I mean,
much.
you didn't really say this, but it sounds like a resounding success. I mean, we're talking about a investment of a total of like 6 minutes, right? For the whole week.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I did like half of it or less than half, and it still helped.
You think you want to try it next week? I feel
Yeah,
encouraged by your results.
yeah, especially the gratitude part because I forgot that part of the assignment.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'll try to keep looking for compliments to do. I think the compliments could really help me because I sometimes am rather dour about my current situation.
Mm,
So that'll help me to literally sort of, have a rosier outlook by finding things, that finding the good part of things around me.
mm,
Yeah, and I did the journaling like maybe half the time. I'll try that again and try to be consistent about it. As for if it increased my mood, I'm not sure, but I know that like along with these exercises, I was doing some social anxiety kinds of things, and
mm,
somewhere in the mix of all that stuff, like that definitely helped my mood and being less reactive. So
mm,
yeah, I would say the sort of experiments that I've tried this week have been also a resounding success.
mm,
And I'll try to report back, at least to you next week.
mm,
So another thing we thought about talking about was Rousseau a little bit on morality. So this is like a near quote. Uh, this is from his book Emile, Big Book Emile on education, but it's really kind of presents like a comprehensive sort of, I don't know, diagram or comprehensive conditions in his view for modern life, modern, especially liberal life in free countries, the sort of comprehensive view on what is a human being in modern times. But here he says, we blame God for our wickedness when we had the power to stop it at the beginning, before our habits were formed. We did not at first know how to occupy our mind with the objects that it ought to know in order to evaluate those it does not. So the first part of that, yeah, we blame God for our wickedness when we had the power to stop it at the beginning before our habits were formed. Yeah, I thought that was interesting in linking, like, with morality and good and evil behavior, we tend to essentialize and look at those as coming from some kind of essential uh, part of who we are, from our nature, whether we're sort of good or evil. And Rousseau is trying to say, I think he's trying to say so much of our behavior just comes from our habits and maybe habits that were very long in forming, or maybe lack of good habits, and sort of some kind of bad default. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
mm. Well, kind of like I first said before, like kind of like along the lines are saying that it's kind of a tendency we have to try to look to the outside,
Mhm.
and we kind of have those problems in our lives,
Mhm.
and
Do you think we have a
but
responsibility for trying to form this? This sounds a little bit like Aristotelian character development that we've talked about recently. Do you think we have a responsibility to form our habits, or to be careful about bad habits that might be forming in our lives?
yeah, I think so, because yeah, I did kind of use that responsibility. So yeah, we have a responsibility to kind of look after ourselves in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, it's hard to want to accept that, and
Mm-hmm.
and us kind of choosing the influences we allow to like control us or influence us
Why is it hard?
in a way. Uh, I don't know, maybe because some of these maybe we would didn't choose originally. Like it's just something that was around us as a child. So
Mm-hmm.
just it just it makes it more ingrained, and
Mhm.
then being told you have to change it once you realize it's wrong, it's difficult, and I could see why people would don't want to accept that and just want to blame like their environment or whatever.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, that there's obviously implications in this quote about how we educate children.
mhm,
But yeah, besides that, in a way, when you become an adult, you have a second childhood where you could be said to that you are forming your future self. And yes, also unforming your past self
mhm.
sometimes. Are there habits of yours that you have tried to cultivate or bad habits that you've tried to curb?
Well, like my longest bad one has been liking sweets a lot, so that's been it's been something since childhood.
Mm.
That's when I'm constantly trying to improve or and reduce. Um,
I think you've said you've had success with that in the past, although nowadays you've kind of reverted,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So I'm in this cycle of making progress and then reverting like every couple of years. Um,
How did you make
so
progress?
well, I just like what the cliche with diet moderation. So practicing moderation gave me the most success, where I still had some, and there's like a lot of signs where like if you already talking about this, but not completely cutting it out, um, helped the most.
Mm,
But my habit makes me want to the behaviors makes me want to go to the extreme of that. So if I'm not disciplined about it, like I revert and just have too much
mm,
of whatever the sweet is.
mm. So
Um,
having a little bit, but then just you think it's sort of willpower or something, and that eventually
I think
becomes
so.
habit.
Yeah, to me, if it feels, I know people say like willpower the
All it's
isn't
cracked up to be.
it's cracked up to, yeah, pretty much. And I'm seeing stuff now kind of downplaying willpower,
Hmm.
and how it
Yeah,
doesn't
that's
actually help.
yeah, that's
But
fashionable. And Vervaeke talks about that,
yeah,
and there's a whole history there with Protestantism and everything. But anyway,
yeah.
but
But
for
for
you, that's
me,
been your experience, like
yeah,
willpower combined with sort of some sense or some knowledge that
yeah,
you don't want to cut it out completely, but yeah, cut yourself off when you've had a little bit of satisfaction, would you say?
yeah. And just yeah, willpower and just building discipline around that um
Mm.
helped me
What
the
do you mean
most.
building discipline? Is that the same thing as like a set of good habits and start to build like a sense of self?
Yeah, I'd say so. So yeah, I would just make a plan and then like be like, I'll eat one of this or two of that, and then that will be it for the day.
Mm.
And even if it's painful to say no to like the third or fourth screen or whatever,
Mhm.
like I would just deal with it. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, and yeah,
And
just a
over
set of good
time, as you've
habits.
said no to yourself several times, that helps you to say no in the future or something.
Yeah, it becomes like a new normal. And when I see the results with like feeling healthier or losing weight, like I'm satisfied, and it's motivation to keep it up.
Hmm.
Um, but like we all know, habits are very easy to lose. So yeah, that happened to me. So now I'm back at square one.
Mm. Well, you've done it before.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like right now it's maybe I just subconsciously or something don't want to go through that pain again. So that's why it's been very hard to like reestablish that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Are there any moral uh habits that you've tried to cultivate or bad sort of morals you've tried to curb?
Mm, see.
I don't know. I guess discipline is in a way like like an aspect of morality. I mean, it's discipline means self-control, right?
Yeah,
And so that can have other sort of more moral implications. Like if you don't have much self-control, it's hard to imagine how you'll live the best moral life that you can, how you'll
yeah.
resist temptation and
Yes.
things.
Yeah, I'm not so sure, but at least with this food stuff, I kind of try to remember like the deadly sins, and gluttony is one of them, as we
Mm-hmm.
know. So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of try to frame it also as like a moral problem, like I'm having
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to food and things like that.
I could see
Um,
how, though, that would also maybe make the stakes seem too high and lead to sort of self-hatred.
mm, oh yeah, like I'm not happy with myself, but I don't know, like I think maybe adding that extra layer is still kind of
Sort of a reminder.
beneficial. A reminder that it's not just about the medical side of it, but just kind of being a more balanced person overall.
Mm.
And
The
yeah.
second part of the quote says, we did not feel, or this is a near quote, I guess, we did not at first know how to occupy our mind with the objects that it ought to know in order to embrace those it does not. Yeah, that's fascinating to me, this idea of that he seems to have of fixating your mind early on good things, maybe examples of virtue or other things, or or conversely not fixing your mind on bad things, and sort of like what you have on your mind is what you will end up becoming and doing, you know. And this is a fascinating thing for me. But yeah, did you have any thoughts about that? Are there any, I guess this is a lot of what we talk about is sort of, I don't know, how we want to influence our future self, you know, like what you put in front of your eyes. You and I were talking off screen just about how, especially for children, maybe pornography could be like a bad thing. And this is relevant because a lot of kids do view pornography now. In fact, it's kind
Mm,
of like hard to avoid when they're online a lot.
mm,
And yeah, how that could have a very bad influence later on.
mm,
Maybe, you know, linking their sexual desires as they burgeon later on in life, a little later on in life,
mm,
linking those desires with just the act itself rather than a complex kind of web of thoughts with a lot of beauty or true ends, in other words, like family and relationships and deep relationships. But pornography could theoretically have the tendency, yeah, to link in their minds just the act itself and often a particularly sort of brutal or sort of ugly aspects of that act.
mm.
But yeah, do you have any further thoughts on you know, knowledge of fixing your mind on the objects that it
Mhm.
ought to know so that it can develop judgment later on about new things that you encounter in life and in yourself?
Mm. Or do you mean like I guess like ways to kind of like avoid that kind of trap with like bad habits, like mentally or something? Or
I think that might be a little bit of what's implied here. Yeah. Yeah, but I think there's a lot more to it, but
oh. yeah, I'm not sure I'm in the right path, but I'm thinking something about some knowledge about like dangers of like self-gratification
Mhm.
or maybe like instantaneous self-gratification, which I think a lot of these habits are
Mhm.
kind of fueled by like with the pornography. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
it-
Yeah. I wonder if the things that you're referencing are sort of more ideas. What about images? Are there images that sort of have influenced you? Like I could share one for me. There was a time a while ago where I thought the Hayao Miyazaki movie Princess Mononoke was very powerful. And there was an image of Princess Mononoke
mm,
who was this sort of representation in the movie of like a pre-industrial
mm,
natural kind of Japan.
mm,
And she's riding like this giant white wolf. And anyway, that was a representation for me of sort of natural, wild, but not savage beauty that
mm,
is sort of always an alternative to,
mm,
and maybe in complex relationship with
mm,
industrial sort of urban society, which maybe I was sort of felt like I was suffering under at the time,
mm,
just sort of living in like a big city and
mm,
maybe being somewhat frazzled
mm,
and isolated.
mm.
But that
Okay.
image of her in my mind, I remember several times like coming to me in certain situations and like sort of yeah, my feeling they're more focused and more sort of grounded,
Mm.
balanced, calm.
Okay. Yeah, now I understand better. But for me, that would definitely be the classical art and sculpture. Um,
Oh, okay.
Especially the art I saw a lot as a child in church.
Mm.
Just religious art was around me like all the time. And
Wow.
it kind of became like a symbol for me of like kind of going higher as a human being, um, and kind
Mm.
of thinking beyond the mundane stuff in life.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of the purpose of those
yeah,
things, right?
yeah. And like I really enjoyed art for a long period. So yeah, then I'm thinking of the Greek and Roman art, um, Renaissance paintings, and paintings from all the ages. Definite. That's what I think of when I think of like images or kind of
And they gave you
maybe
this,
like
and you're talking about reproductions, right? Not having visited Rome or the
no, I've
Vatican.
no, I've been to museums. A couple years ago, I went to the LA one uh that had like I think actual like I'm not sure 100%, but it had a lot of those kinds of
Mm.
art pieces.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, that's
so
good. So you're talking about in an Uber sort of way, all of this stuff representing some sort of, I don't know, heaven or anyway, a higher realm than that of
yeah,
the mundane, which maybe kind of pull you down a little bit.
yeah,
Mm.
and I felt like it kind of just speaks to the heart and um those that kind of imagery I think might be is helpful with like what we've been talking about encouraging better habits in people.
Mm.
Uh,
Do you think
or
there might be one that would help with your struggles with sugar?
I don't know, like I'm just thinking shallowly of the Greek and Roman
Yeah, the
sculptures
ideal
because
bodies that they
yeah,
had.
yeah,
Well,
and
maybe, yeah.
yeah, it was just kind of a think model, just yeah, being moderate and kind of looking after yourself.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah, balanced.
yeah, and yeah, just not being caught up in BS really, like
Mm.
overeating.
Mm. What do you mean by that? The overeating itself is BS, or you mean sort of overeating is not just from a craving, for these things, but also maybe an escape from mental sorts of rumination.
Yeah, rumination. Like I think you brought up like there's stuff that's just like bullshit before that kind of distracts you from what's important in life. And yeah, I'd say like food and stuff is a waste, or not food, but like oh, the overeating and things like that,
Yeah.
or it's
Yeah,
just
for
a waste
me,
of your time.
yeah, for me, food has been an escape for a long time. Even today, I found myself a little bit lost feeling since I haven't been eating uh, because I'm gonna have a medical procedure soon. And yeah, that's been a good experience. Well, that's kind of a good high point to leave this discussion on, I think. I'm curious if you might, in addition to the other experiments we've talked about, try to reflect on any specific images or just have anything more to say about the imagery. I'd be uh, about how Renaissance imagery and things and ancient Greek proportions and whatnot can have a sort of salutary effect. And maybe we can talk about ideals and things, ideal images and things. I don't know. You know, I love Plato. So,
Yeah, sounds good.
but yeah, ruminate on that if you'd like. But yeah, okay, let's have some things to sort of chew on and get back to each other about next week.
Yeah, sugar-free things to chew on.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, take care.
Yeah, bye.